Hello chess friends! You probably know that Orbis Design Hotel and Spa hosted two international closed tournaments in Paracin, Serbia in December 3rd to 9th, 2018, Grandmaster and International Master Round Robin Tournament Orbis 2 2018. If you missed to see summary about these two tournaments and complete closing and awarding ceremony, take a look information about that in the right upper corner. On these two tournaments we have seen 90 games in total, and I have chosen the most interesting top 10 moments of these two tournaments, in which not all but most of the participants were involved. I will show you some very interesting and very instructive endgames, blunders, attacks, missed chances, wrong plans and ideas. Enjoy! We will start with the games from International Master Tournament. This is the position from the game in which white was Indian player FIDE Master Kartik Kumar Pradip and black was also Indian player Sahil Titsko. In this position, although material is even, white is better. Bishop on d6 is very bad, and white's knight on d3 is dominant. White's threat was bishop c6 in this position, so now it is forced for black to play rook c8 and to trade rooks. After bishop takes e6, pawn takes e6, rook c8 and king c8, now we have entered into an endgame which is strategically very bad for black. His bishop has no any active prospects. Now white played knight g4, immediately attacking this weak pawn on h6. h5 was played, and now probably the most interesting move was knight h6, with the idea to play knight f7 and attack both of these weak pawns on e5 and g5. And after king d7, knight f7, g4, h3, very good move, and after g takes h3 it is forced to take, otherwise black will lose the pawn in two moves. Then simply king g1, king h2, winning both of the pawns, and white has very good winning chances here. Instead of that, white played knight f6. He directly attacked the pawn on h5. And now black made mistake. He played h4, which immediately loses the game. He had a very good move g4, to offer the pawn on h5, but then to play bishop e7, and look how now this knight doesn't have any possible quick way to return to the game. And after f3, g takes f3, king f2, bishop g5 with the idea to play bishop c1 and attack these weak white pawns now on the queen side. And after h4, bishop c1, king f3, bishop a3, knight f6, bishop b4. Still white has advantage here, but position is not that clear. But black made mistake and he played here h4 move, and now after king g2 his position is completely lost. After h takes g3, in the game white took f takes g3, although maybe even better was king takes g3, and after bishop e7, knight h7, king d8, king g4, winning g5 pawn and having clear passed pawn on h5. In the game it was played a little bit different, f takes g3, and let's see how the game ended. King d8, king f3, bishop e7, knight g4, bishop d6, knight f2, and now king will go to h5 square, and this pawn on g5 will be soon lost. After g4 and knight h3, black resigned the game. This is the game from round 2, in which very young Indian underrated player Om Karola played as white against FIDE Master Danilo Besedes from Serbia. In this game, Besedes played Caro-Kann with third move knight f6, and white started very dangerous attack on black's king. It is now white on the move, and white played the best move here, g5. All of his major pieces are currently attacking the king. It is forced to take f takes g5, h takes g5, bishop takes f5. And this is first moment in which white could have been played better. Queen takes f5 was much better move than the move which was played in the game bishop takes f5. After queen f5, there is queen h7 threat, so g6 is forced move, and after queen f6, queen e7, simply rook takes h6, queen takes f6, pawn takes f6, rook d5, forced move because rook h2 and rook h8 checkmate threat could not be stopped. So this is the only move now, and after this simple trade, white is clear 2 pawns up and white has winning position. In the game, instead of queen f5, white took bishop f5, and now Besedes missed to enter into the position in which he could still have some chances in the game by playing g6. After g takes h6, queen e7, bishop e6, queen e6. Of course that white is still much better in this position, but black can still play the game. Instead of that, he took the pawn on g5 and instantly lost the game. After rook g5, now king f8 was played, and after rook h8, king e7, very nice end of the game. Bishop e6 attacking the queen, and after queen e6, rook e8, and now Besedes resigned the game because rook e5 with winning the queen cannot be stopped in this position. This is the position from round 3 in which white was top-seeded player, Grandmaster Borko Leitheim, and black was second-seeded player, International Master Vladimir Klasan. In this game, black was struggling during the whole game, and white missed few times to play some moves with decisive advantage. In this position here, it is black on the move, and black played e5. And we are going to see now how even strong players, strong grandmasters, can make huge and big blunders. In this position here, Leitheim took knight e5 and immediately lost the game. But however he captures this pawn, actually if he captures d5 or if he plays queen e4, he has much better position. For example, if queen e4, now rook is pinned to the queen, and after e d4, knight d4, queen d7, knight b5, rook takes b5, rook b5, queen b5 and b4, he is up 2 pawns and he has excellent winning chances in this game. Also, he was able to take with a pawn d takes e5, and now rook d1 would be very bad because after rook d1, king g2, rook d3, there is simply h4 and 3 pawns up and completely winning position for white. Or if not trading of the rooks, if rook d3 immediately, then just knight e1 because knight was hanging on f3, and after rook d4 trading and simply queen e3 with serious advantage for white again. But he made big blunder, knight takes e5. And now after rook d4, his position is very bad. Is lost actually. The last chance for him was to play queen takes f7 now, and after queen f7, knight f7, king f7, rook c4, rook c4, bc4, to be a piece down but to have 3 pawns for that, although even in this position black is of course better. There are some chances for white of course, but black is better. Instead of that, he simply took rook d4. He still didn't see what is going on in this position, but after knight d4, he's completely lost. The problem is that his king is terrible because queen on b7 controls long h1, a8 diagonal. The best move now for white is to play queen f7 and to play with a piece down, but this position is now lost and it's even worse than the previous in which black was a piece down. But instead of that, he played rook e1. He was in some sort of a shock here, and after knight e2 he resigned the game because it is a knight's fork, and if rook takes the knight, then simply rook e1 checkmate. So this position and this game shown how even a strong grandmasters can make big blunders. This is the position from round 8, in which again white was FIDE master Kartik Kumar Pradip and black was Rakshita Ravi from India as well. At this moment, in first 7 rounds, Kartik Kumar Pradip had 5.5 points and he needed 1.5 out of 2 to gain International Master norm. He was trying to win this game as white, but Rakshita Ravi played very good this game and position was equal. In this position here, it was black on the move and Rakshita Ravi played f6 to prepare e5 at some point. Rook c3 was played, and now she didn't play e5, although it was possible. If e5 is played, then f takes e5, f takes e5, king d3, rook c6, king c6, rook b5, and after rook c7, rook a5, position is equal and drawn. White could still try to play a little bit more, but it is equal and drawn. But Rakshita Ravi didn't play e5, she played h5, Kartik played h4, and after rook c6 we again had trading of the rooks, and now unbelievable blunder which costed Kartik Kumar Pradip this game and the chance to gain norm on this tournament. Instead of playing simply rook b5 and after rook c7 rook a5 and still to try to win the game, but position is drawn, even with the draw in this game he would have a chance to win the last round and to gain the norm. Instead of that, after king takes c6 he made unbelievable blunder, played rook a7, and after king b6 he blundered the whole rook and lost the game. This is also a position from the round 8 in which white was Mladenovic Stefan from Serbia and black was international master Vladimir Klasan from Serbia also. In this position black was a pawn up, but white was very active and that was enough compensation for being down a pawn. Now black made check queen e5 and white is forced to trade queens, and after queen takes e5 and rook takes e5, rook takes a7, we entered in a typical rook endgame. Rook e2, rook b7. Now black will choose which pawn to capture. Of course that he will capture b pawn and have a passed pawn, because if he captures rook f2, after rook takes b6 the game is of course completely drawn. So he captured the pawn on b2 and now he's trying to win this game with this passed b pawn, although this game is theoretically drawn now. The position is theoretically drawn. h4, b5, king g3, b4, king f3. The idea now is to push g3 to have all of his pawns defended and to have this g2 safe square for the king. Black played king g7, white played g3, b3, and now king e3, which is also a fine move. Rook b1, king f4, king f6, rook b6 check, king e7. This is the first moment in which Mladenovic missed to play more active and better in this position and to secure draw in this game. The best move was king g5. And now either rook f1 to win the pawn on f2 or to push b2. If b2, king h6. King e8, king g7, very important move. And after king e7, f4. Rook g1, rook takes b2, rook takes g3, rook e2 check, winning the pawn on f7, rook g4 and rook e4, and after king d5 simply rook a4, no chance now for black's king to attack f4 pawn. If black wins h4 pawn he will lose g6 pawn and no chance for black to win this game. Second option for black was to play here rook f1 to win f pawn when he loses b pawn, and in that case also the game will be drawn. After king h6, king f6, rook b6 check, king e5, king g7, rook f3, rook b5 check, king e6, rook b6 check, king f5, king takes f7, very important move. And now after rook g3, rook f6 check, with the idea to win the pawn on g6. After king g4, now not bad move rook g6, because after king h4 there will still be small chances for black to play to win. Instead of that, king will take on g6, and now the game is completely drawn. Because there is no chance to make progress, simply the pawn on h5 will be soon lost, and the game is completely drawn. But Stefan Mladenovic here played rook b7 check. And after king e6, now thanks to this move he played, he lost this endgame. Again, king g5 was good move. And after king d5, king f6, king c4, king takes f7, rook a1, and now checking. Again attacking the pawn, king c2, rook c2 check, king d2, rook d7 check, king c2, rook c7, and if king b2, simply king g6. And after rook c1, rook b7, rook c5 to defend h5 pawn, but now f4, with the idea to play f5 and advance his passed pawn. Now f5, b2, f6, rook c6, king f5, and now draw by repetition. There is no any chance for black to make progress in this game. If black wants to play to win, he may only lose this position, so it is drawn. But f3 is a big mistake because it will give black's king a path later in the game to win the game. Black played f6, rook b6 check, king e7, rook a6, b2, rook b6. Everything looks like that Mladenovic can still make a draw, but the problem is now that he can never go back now to e3 or to e-file because of rook e1 check and promotion. King d7, rook b7 check, king c6, rook b8, king c5, rook c8 check, king d4, rook d8 check, king c3, rook c8 check, and now we see how black's king is approaching closer to the kingside pawns. After rook b8, king e2, rook b6, king d3. Now he made mistake and lost the game in one move. He played rook b8 and Klassen won the game on a very beautiful way, which is rook c1. He is offering the pawn which cannot be captured because rook c4 will be checkmate. But let's see how would Klassen win the game even if white didn't make this bad blunder at the end of the game. So after king d3, the best move in this position is rook d6 check, but this also loses the game. The idea is to come with the king on h3 square and then to give up the pawn on b2 by playing rook a1, rook a4 check and win g3 and h4 pawns on the king side. So king e2, rook e6, king f1, rook b6, king g2. And now if rook takes f6, then simply rook c1 easily wins the game. And if, let's say, rook b8, king h3. If now rook b4, then great move which wins the game is g5. And after pawn takes, king takes, h4, fantastic move. The point is that if pawn takes now on h4, then we have rook c1 check and queen promotion. If rook takes, then we have simply this position in which black easily wins the game by reaching his king to c3 square, and later he will easily win. If we said if pawn takes on h4, then rook g1 check and promotion will follow. If in this position after king h3 he plays rook b3, then this plan which we have seen, rook a1, and after rook takes b2, rook a4 check, winning both g3 and h4 pawns, and this is completely lost endgame for white. This was very instructive, typical rook endgame. Now we are going to see 5 games from a Grandmaster tournament. This is the position from game in round 1, in which white was international master Vuk Djordjevic from Serbia, and black was Indian prodigy international master Gukesh D. Vuk Djordjevic is well known as ultimate fighter in chess and who almost never accepts draw offers and always wants to play to win the game. This time, that attitude costed him a game. In this position, it was white on the move, and he had a chance to trade queens, play queen d5 and trade queens, to simplify the position, and that would guarantee draw and simple game for him. If now queen takes d5, then knight d5, king f7, king g2, king e6, and let's say knight b6, with no chances practically to lose this game. Better move for black after queen d5 is king h8, and after queen b3, a b3, to keep the tactical option of sacrificing bishop on c3 and promoting b3 pawn. That's why the move like king e2 would be wrong, because after bishop c3 now it's of course big advantage for black. But there is simple move knight d1 to defend c3 pawn, and after knight d7 now king g2, king g8, king f3, king f7, and after let's say d4 position is completely equal. But Rook wanted to complicate and to play to win the game like he always plays, and he played f5. He played f5 with g5 idea after that. And also after f5 he's sacrificing the pawn on b2, but he wanted to establish the knight on f5 square. So after queen b2, g5, he continues with his plan, but the plan is obviously wrong. And after g takes f5, knight f5, queen c1, king h2, bishop e5, and now first move was king g2 now. That was the best move. But after queen g5, king f1, queen c1 check, king g2, queen f4, queen d5 check, king h8, queen f7, there is queen g5 check and queen f6, and now Gukesh is 2 pawns up, and he will have excellent winning chances in this game. He's much better, but white could still play the game. Instead of that, after bishop e5 check, he didn't play king g2, he played king h3, which loses instantly. Queen f1, and his position is lost. After king g4, queen takes f2, now he's a piece up. d4, pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4, queen g1 check, king h3, queen f1 check, king g4, queen d1 check, king h3, and queen h5 check. So Gukesh found this maneuver to win the pawn on g5 with check, and here Djordjevic resigned the game because he's a piece down and completely lost. This is again the game in which Vuk Djordjevic was involved. He played as white in this game, and his opponent was international master Milos Stankovic, also from Serbia. This is critical moment of the game, very complicated position. Material is equal, but it is very imbalanced position. And black has this very dangerous passed pawn on a2, and white must be very careful. Vuk Djordjevic here made big mistake. He should have played queen c4, and after rook b8 to threat rook b1, there is of course rook e1, and after let's say rook a4, queen c2, rook a8, knight c4, rook b8, knight e3, with a position which is even slightly better for white, and white has no problems. He also has these passed pawns which he wants to use to maybe try to win the game. But instead of playing queen c4, he played queen b3. This move is bad because rook b8 now comes with a tempo and queen must move again. Queen c3 was played, and now it is no big difference. Will black play first rook b1 and then rook a3, or first rook a3 and then rook b1? He actually played rook a3, and after queen d2, rook b1, rook e1 is first move, and this is now first moment when black missed immediate win. Immediate win in one move, that is rook d3 was actually played, but the move which wins immediately is rook from a to b3. Simply game is over because it is not possible to stop. Rook takes a1, and after rook takes, simply rook b1. So let's say h3, rook takes a1, and rook b1, and white can just resign the game. So he played rook d3 move. He's still winning, but not immediately. Vuk Djordjevic here played queen e2, and now he is missing the second chance to win the game. He took the rook on e1 instead of again playing rook from d to b3 with absolutely the same idea, for example knight e4, knight e4, queen e4, and now this wins. Rook e1, queen e1, and queen b8 with rook b1 plan. White can do nothing and just resign the game. Instead of that, he took rook e1. And now his advantage is just modest. After queen e1, he should have played here h6, maintaining better position, but not as big as before. Instead of that, he played queen a4, and now after h3, position is equal. He cannot make progress anymore, if both sides play precisely, of course. Black took queen d4, white took rook a2, and now it's not possible to play rook e1, rook d1, of course, because of checkmate on a8, so black is forced to create a square for the king. He played g6, and now again Vuk Djordjevic made big mistake playing queen a5. Instead of that, he had very easy continuation, actually not very easy, but very strong continuation, rook a8 and rook d8, and now it's a problem for black because there is this covered check on e8 as a threat. That's why rook d1 will not work, because of knight e8 check, and after knight e8 queen takes d1 and white wins the game. But black can play queen b2 here, and after knight e8 check, knight e8, rook e8, and now the position is drawn. So that is what white missed to enter in draw endgame, draw position. He played queen a5, and now after e3 he is again completely lost. Queen a8 check, king g7, queen f3, all is forced, rook d1 check, king h2, rook d2, Stankovic played all the best moves, and after rook a7, now again, third time in this game, he missed completely winning position. Very easy move actually, rook f2 he didn't play, because after rook f7 there is nothing when king goes to h6. If, for example, queen g3, then knight h5. Black can win the game, white can just resign now. If knight f5 check, then g takes f5, and after rook takes f6, simply king g7. Look now how both rook and the queen are hanging, and rook d6 will be no help, because after rook f3, rook takes queen e2, and now this rook doesn't have a square to stop the queen from the pawn from queening. If rook d7 with rook e7 idea, then king f6 will be played, and of course promotion cannot be stopped, and black wins the game. Instead of that, he played, from the reason which I don't know why, he played queen e5 check, and after queen g3, now position is drawn. After queen g3, fg3, e2, rook f7, king h6, and rook e7, there is no any chance for black to make progress, and this game was played for another 30 moves, but ended as a draw. This is the position from round 5, in which white was young Indian player Leon Luc Mendonca, and black was member of Olympic team of Morocco, Mohamed-mehdi Ait Mido. Indian player played excellent this game and overplayed his opponent, and now his rook was under attack, and he needs to find a way actually how to break through. He played now very good move rook a3. He is offering this pawn on d5 in order to find a way how to break through in black's position. Of course, that it's bad to capture this pawn, because after rook d3, bishop e4, rook will capture the pawn on d6, and after rook f3, just rook d7, and position is now lost. If rook goes back, it will be a checkmate rook b7, so rook has to capture, and after pawn takes, king c7, a5, bishop b7 and king c5, all of these pawns on king side are completely weak, and white easily wins this endgame. So after rook a3, he didn't capture the pawn, he played rook a8. And now a5 check, and it's a winning position for white. After king c7, bishop c4 now to defend the pawn, rook b8 check, king c3, black can just mark time, cannot make any active move, he must keep the rook on a8, and then a6, excellent move, in order to open this a5 square for his king. Rook a7, rook b3, threatening now rook b7. Look how bishop from c4 defends everything, the pawn on d5 and the pawn on a6. And after king c8, king b4, king b8, king goes to a5, it's completely lost. King a8 and rook b7, forcing the trading of the rooks. And after rook takes b7, a takes b7, king a7. For the moment, it may look like to someone that white didn't play well and that now he doesn't have any move how to make progress, but of course there is excellent b8 promotion, sacrificing the pawn, and then king b6 with unstoppable c7 and bishop a6 with promotion and quick checkmate. This is the position from round 7, in which white was Haik der Manuelian from United States of America, and black was Grandmaster Dragan Kosic from Montenegro, who played excellent this tournament. This is typical position in which black will apply minority pawn attack. He will use his 2 pawns on the queen side to attack white's 3 pawns in order to create weaknesses. And it was black on the move in this position, and he starts with b5. ab5, ab5, and now white played knight h5, probably with the idea to shift the knight to d3 square from playing first knight f4 and then knight d3. Black played g6, knight f4 and b4, typical example of minority pawn attack. Although if we consult engine about this position, it will show that black has almost no advantage or just a modest advantage, it is very hard in a real game to play such position as white, because black has always clear plans and white is struggling to defend his weaknesses. The best what white can do, besides having this weakness on c3, is try not to create any other weakness in his position. So here probably the best move was c takes b4, although it is hard to decide to play something like this. Possible continuation could be queen b6, and after queen e3, queen takes b4, rook is activating now on a7, rook b7 is almost forced, and then knight d3 to attack queen first and defend the pawn on b2. And after queen b6, trading queens, and then strong move rook c1. And after rook c1, queen c1, queen b5, queen c3, this is the position which is possible to hold, and there is no now any big reason why should actually white lose this game. But it was not easy to play like this. White in this game played rook from f to c1, some of the moves which we see very often in similar positions. After bc3, it was possible to take with the rook or with the pawn. If b takes c3, then rook b3, and after knight e2, just knight b6, and this is a long time pressure to white's position. After bc3, he took rook c3, queen b6, rook c1, rook takes c3, bc3, knight f6. And this is maybe the critical moment for this game. Of course, that black's plan here is to play knight e4, and what white has to do in this position is not to create, as I said before, not to create any additional weakness in his position. And that's exactly what white did. He played h4 move. He thought that this move is an active move, which will maybe organize some counterattack, at the same time creating an escaping square for his king on h2. But actually that was mistake. Better move was to play h3, because you will see later how this is a weakness in the next phase of the game. After queen b2, rook b2, f3, king g7, king f1, knight e8. Now this knight will go to d6, knight d3, rook a2, knight b4, rook a3, king e2, h5. Very important move. The point of this move is to fix the weakness on h4. Now this pawn is weakness, and if white wants to defend this pawn, he will need to play g3, but then g3 pawn will be weak. Strategically speaking, this position is lost, although material is equal. After king d3, knight went to d6, knight c2, rook a2. Now knight is pinned to the pawn. When knight moves, the pawn on g2 will be lost. So knight d3 is the only move actually, knight e3 is the only move, but king f6, rook g1, rook b2, rook h1, and knight f5. At this moment, position is strategically lost for white. Knight c2 would be with more resistance in this position, but white captured the pawn, the knight on f5. After this, it is lost. King f5, g3 is now forced because it was hanging pawn, and look now, after rook g2, which move is white forced to play? Rook h3. There is probably no any worse square in this position than h3 for the rook, but white is forced to do that. So his position is now lost. It was played f6, king e3, e5, and let's see what happened to the end of the game. Kosic simply didn't have any trouble to win this game. Now white realized that he must activate the rook and to give up this pawn on g3, but it is too late. Position is lost. Now he will lose one more pawn, this pawn on h4, and he will win the pawn on d5, but he is completely lost because of h5 passed pawn. After rook c6, now rook defends the g6 pawn also, and after rook d8, king f4, and white resigned the game because he can't stop now king g3 and simply h4, h3, h2, and promotion of h-pawn. Very instructive, typical minority pawn attack plan. This is the position from round 8, in which white was Indian international master Gukesh, and black was the player from Morocco, FIDE master Mohamed-mehdi Ait Mido. This was very important game for Indian prodigy Gukesh. He had 6 points out of 7 games before this round, and to gain his second GM norm, he needed 1 point out of these last 2 games. If he wins in the round 8 in this position, then he would secure his norm 1 round before tournament ends. He played very well this game and he got into this rook endgame. Let's see now how Gukesh played this rook endgame. Rook f6, so giving up this b7 pawn, which he can't defend anymore, but to win f7 pawn is very important. So rook f8. Black decided, of course, not to give up the pawn, because if he captures with the rook on b7, then rook f7 will trade rooks and this will be winning pawn endgame. And if he captures with the king, then rook f7 is with check and he loses also h7 pawn. So rook f8 is forced move. And then king is approaching to the center. The point is that once black captures the b7 pawn, Gukesh will play rook d6 and win d4 pawn. And that actually happened now. Now again, Gukesh is a pawn up, but in rook endgames it is not always easy to convert such advantage into a win. Rook a8, e4, rook a1, and e5, very important move. First to fix black's pawn on f7, and second to create this e4 square, excellent post for his king. Rook a6, king f3, rook e6, king e4, rook a6, rook d5, rook a4, d4, all is very easy for white so far. Now, it was wrong to play rook a3 and to win the pawn on h3, because white will play rook d6, and after rook h3, rook f6, rook h1, rook f7, and after king d8, just e6 with king d5, king d6, completely lost position for black, because white's passed pawn on e-file is much stronger than black's passed pawn on h-file. That is why black kept his rook on the 6th rank, trying not to allow white to advance. Rook c5 check, king d7, rook b5, rook a7, king d5. Rook c7, h4. And black now played h5. Although this move looks good, because now all black's pawns are protecting each other, it is actually not good move. It is bad move, which will now allow white to play soon f5, once he put his rook on f6, to play f5, and either to win the pawn after fg6, fg6, rook g6, or to force black to take g takes f5, and then the pawn on h5 will be weak and soon lost. And this is actually what happened in the game. Rook b6, actually first king e4, with the idea to play rook f6 and f5. Black played rook a4, rook f6, king e7, and f5. Now, if black doesn't take on f5, then he will lose the pawn on g6. So he took, and after rook f5, rook a1. Rook takes h5, and now it is 2 pawns advantage, and of course, winning position for white. Let's see what happened to the end. Rook checks, king d5, rook h1, rook h8, rook h2. Now black just marks time because he can't make any progress until white pushes the pawn up to h7. And after king d7, this was really nice move to the end of the game. I will give you some time to think about this position and to find the winning move for white. It is really wonderful. Yes, that move is rook f8, great move. What a nice move for GM norm. If rook takes h7, then rook will take on f7, checking the king and attacking the rook. Rook from h7 is forced to take the rook, and then e6 check, attacks the rook at the same time, wins the rook on f7, and easily wins this pawn endgame. Really nice for the end of this game. I hope that you have enjoyed in this top 10 moments of truth of these two international closed tournaments. If you want to see some specific content in my videos, please place the comment below my video on YouTube. Take a look at these suggested videos and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.